Welcome to this video. This video is part of a series related to a period that includes the by consensus defined, timed and named 1. Younger Dryas period that began 12,800 BP, green arrow pointing up, and 2. The Ice Age that supposedly also began 12,800 BP, light blue to the right of the green arrow pointing up, with the name Younger Dryas on top. However, there is a discrepancy between the Younger Dryas and the Ice Age, because the Ice Age itself, as well as the radical drop in temperature that should define and be interpreted the Ice Age, are most severe roughly 2,000 years, the Balling-Alarod period, dark blue left of the green arrow, before the supposed meteorite impact that is the supposed start or beginning, green arrow, of the Younger Dryas period, light blue right of the green arrow, 12,800 BP as well as the Ice Age, while according to the data it is rather the beginning of the end of the Ice Age. This discrepancy is a first of several paradigmas. The whole meteorite impact hypothesis is cornered around the deepest dip, green arrow, in temperature, right above the green arrow, but leaves unattended how it got to that deepest dip in temperature in a race towards that dip for almost 2,000 years, Balling-Alarod period. With this meteorite impact hypothesis, and calling the Balling-Alarod, which is one of the most radical cooling periods of our planet, Balling-Alarod in dark blue and red arrow below, a warming period, when it is in fact the most drastic cooling period of all times, shows us that consensus was very eager to silence this whole enigma or paradigm of why such radical temperature changes were possible and why these unnatural deposits, including vitrifications and one or more black mats, signaling and result general extinctions and death, were spread out over large part, or boundaries, of the world. Since consensus was eager to link these abnormalities to one or more supposed meteorite deposits and impacts, I at times call them meteorite proxies. This while I will claim and give evidence that these abnormalities have nothing to do with meteorites, at least the majority of them. Figure presenting, Balling-Alarod warming Wikipedia. JM, it is easy to see that Balling-Alarod is not a warming but a radical cooling, in fact the most profound cooling of all times. Intermezzo found by search on the internet. The Balling-Alarod interstadial was an abrupt warm and moist interstadial period that occurred during the final stages of the last glacial period. This warm period ran from 14,690 to 12,890 years before the present, BP. End of intermezzo. Paradigma. How an event like cooling to the coldest point or period of an ice age can begin 1,000 or more years before the supposed meteorite or meteorites impacts, that are claimed by consensus to be the cause of the same ice age that started over 1,000 years before its cause. The Younger Dryas meteorite impact hypothesis is what comes closest to a general consensus interpretation of the facts, geological evidences, extinctions, megafauna, Clovis culture, dated 12,800 BP, by consensus, at the onset of the roughly 1,000 years Younger Dryas period, again defined so by consensus, and or the by supposed Younger Dryas ice age, again defined so by consensus. Proposed division between cooling and warming periods. I simply divide a period in a cooling and a warming part of the whole period, dark combined with light blue, that combines Balling-Alarod and Younger Dryas periods, and the new division is the blue arrow pointing up. You could also see it as an extension of the Balling-Alarod period. The dividing date would no longer be 12,800 BP but roughly 12,700 BP. Some could argue I am making this up, but I am not, because the supposed meteorite events are spread out over 1,000 years. Any date in this 1,000 years range would make as much sense as 12,800 BP makes. It would make more sense if the author of a new date would have more arguments than the author of 12,800 BP has. And we still have to count with a delay in the effect of the transition from cooling to warming, but what we see in the graphic, this delay will not be more than the roughly 100 years that the curve is relatively flat at the lowest point of the combined Balling and Younger Dryas periods. Man-made turnover events and ice ages. For me, JM, this video and my hypothesis is part of the series with many soft evidences and proofs that I will provide in favor of my Johannes Mollantz, JM, hypothesis that the meteorite proxies and related extinctions, megafauna, Clovis culture, are in fact an essential part of, and results of one of the man-made turnover events of the world by Amerinds from an ancient Amerind empire, that I sometimes call pre-Olmec or pre-Inca, only to make it more descriptive and because the Olmec and Inca still presented a few characteristics of what was before them, and they build up top of what was left from those before or used their materials, or global imperium, to show its total or global impact, but that David Reich and others call the Yamnaya turnover event or Horseman turnover event, possibly or partly also to make it more descriptive, because their research was at least initially mostly Europe-oriented, Eurocentric. I justify calling it also a global empire simply because it was one of the few times an empire or culture, rather recently, could impact the whole world, and that we have that much evidence and even ancient DNA of. Thank you for watching. Bye.